Hello, flat earth researchers, debaters and debunkers. Just a simple observation of the various boats in the distance that are on the horizon from this point of view on the beach, maybe at a height of about 2 meters or so above sea level. Okay, so there are various, I don't know if you can see them in this footage, but there are various boats that appear to be on the horizon, and they're at probably different distances. Some may be close, some may be far away. The point I'm making is that just because something reaches the horizon, it doesn't mean that it starts going over some imaginary curve. It just appears to be on the horizon because of our perspective. Yes, our height above the surface makes a difference as to how far we can see before we get an apparent horizon. But the thing is, once a ship appears to be on the horizon because of our height above the surface, it just carries on going off into the distance on the horizon until we just can't see it anymore. It just becomes too small to make out. Let me see, I think I might be pointing at about 2 or 3 boats or ships on the horizon there. I can see 4. I can't see very well in my viewfinder here, but they're most likely at different distances from us. But because they're at a certain distance away from us, they already appear to be on the horizon. If I raised the camera level, all that would happen is that the horizon would remain at eye level if the camera remained completely horizontal, which is obviously difficult to do when it's handheld. But those boats, depending on how far away they are, would then appear to be below the horizon, or the horizon would be beyond them. This is just a result of perspective when we look across a flat surface. That's all that happens. Ships do not disappear down any kind of curve. And as we can see, you know, this stretch across from left to right is quite expansive. I really couldn't hazard a guess as to how far I can actually see across it, what the distance is. But of course, bearing in mind that the further out we go, the more and more condensed everything becomes in our field of view. Let's see, for example, those ships that I think I'm pointing at right now, they could be several miles apart, but in our field of view, from this point of view, they might appear to be close together or just take up a few hundred pixels across the camera screen. But in reality, they could be a great distances apart, but there is no curvature between them on the horizontal. Of course, I know the usual argument will be that our vision forms a great circle and that we only see curvature that's apparent at the horizon. This is just one of those compartmentalized explanations that goes with the idea that horizons are curvature. But anyone who investigates horizons, does proper research and observations, will see that a flat surface causes the horizon. Horizons are not necessarily caused by any curvature. This is just an interpretation of what we see, the limitations of what we can see as we look across a flat surface. And it's been interpreted that way just to have us believe that we live on a globe. Yeah? Ah, dear. So I love making these. I mean, this is why coming to the beach is so refreshing. It really does expand your horizons because you can just see so far. Your eye, you realize it's just refreshing. You don't feel the claustrophobia that you might feel in a city or in your home, or in a garden, or in a community. I don't know if you can see the rays coming down through the clouds there. And this is just simply, it's very beautiful, but you know, sunlight is always something that's local, just as moonlight is. It's always local, and it doesn't mean that the sun is distant and coming to us in parallel lines. What's creating those lines? It's the clouds, the shadow that creates the lines. It doesn't mean that light is arriving in parallel lines. It doesn't mean that light is photons or waves. It just means that light is, it's actually very beautiful. I really hope you can see it, because it's kind of, we've got rays coming down that way and rays coming down that way. So of course it looks like a very local sun just above the clouds, but all that is sunlight hitting the clouds, and that's what creates this local phenomenon. Yeah, the sunlight is everywhere. It's you know, someone else could be looking at clouds somewhere else and be seeing a similar effect. So this is the very esoteric nature of sunlight, that to us as an observer, because we're looking at it, it appears very local. But someone else 100 or 1,000 miles away might be seeing the same thing, and it appears very local to them. But that doesn't dictate that the sun is a sphere in the sky or in space 93 million miles away. It doesn't mean that the sun has to be many, many times larger than the Earth or more distant than the Earth. You know? So it really does, and it just reminds me of how some people's most solid proofs that they use to say we're on a globe is something like the equinox, the fact that the sun will appear to rise in the east from various locations on the Earth. Well, the moon does exactly the same thing, usually about a week later than the sun equinox. So there is also a lunar equinox, but of course there is no focus on that. And if the equinox is anything to do with the sun's alleged size and distance in the heliocentric model, then how come the moon can do exactly the same thing? Yeah? Wow, it really is quite striking. I hope it's coming through on this video here. These, yeah, again, we've got rays coming down that appear to be coming down that way, and then they appear to be coming down that way. But this isn't a selfish observation to say that the sun is there for me or for us looking at this video. It's just the way it is. It's just the esoteric nature of the sun. The fact that it doesn't do anything, sunlight doesn't do anything until it hits the clouds. Yeah? And this whole thing about the sun lighting up the bottoms of clouds. You look right now, okay, we've got dense cloud right here that the sun is not penetrating. And then we have white cloud, which means that it's less dense and the sun is shining through that cloud. So if it was sunset now, it's those white parts of the sun that will change color to reds and orange, yeah? The grey parts, because they are dense and thick, will remain grey because the sun is not penetrating them, yeah? So these white parts of the clouds are what changes colour at sunset. It doesn't matter whether they're on the top or the bottom of the cloud itself. People confuse this, and we're told that the sun at sunset lights up the bottoms of clouds, and we interpret it that way, but that's not true. When you look and detach from this idea, and you will see that it's the clouds that are white now, and of course they're constantly changing. You have to watch, you have to sit there and watch what happens. Yeah, so we have this mixture of thick grey clouds. Yeah, if the sun is over there, it's not making these clouds any different. It's just that they're thick clouds that are grey, and lighter clouds that are white because the sun ends up shining through them. Yeah? I mean, again, you don't have to be an the way you become an expert, for want of a better word, in this whole thing is just by looking and not trying to interpret it in any particular way with a bias towards the flat earth or a globe earth. It's just look and see what you see. And then when you see what you see how it really is. There are things about this that we cannot explain. Again, with these local... Oh, it's lovely. I really hope it's coming through. It's very stunning. And it's beautiful. So, you know, globers think that flat earthers don't see the beauty. We do see the beauty. We see the beauty in all these natural phenomenon. Oh, it's wonderful. Yeah. No one's denying the beauty and of the natural elements. But they can also be very harsh. Just very lucky to be in this place where it's not so harsh, but the sunlight can be very harsh and extreme. I'm just going to keep focusing on that. So people come to enjoy it, you know, and they feel revitalized from getting into the sun, being close to nature. People work for many years. A lot of these people that you might see on the beach here, they might have worked for a year, 2, 3, 4. They might be living their dream to come here for a couple of weeks and enjoy the natural surroundings after being closeted up in an office or a factory or behind some desk in a bloody cubicle. There's no need for that. You could sit here on the beach with a laptop, get connected, and you could do work from here if you wanted, couldn't you? But we are herded into the cities. It's all about trust, isn't it? The work I do these days is mostly online, and it involves trust. You have to have this element of trust between the employer and the employee, that we're both committed to doing something that helps the business. And that trust has to be built. Takes time, effort, commitment. Yeah. But that's what we have to do if we want to be free. You have to work towards it. The same goes for breaking free from the global mind matrix. Yeah. Of course, most of the time we just don't even realize that we're imprisoned. But one of our favorite pastimes is complaining about the way things are and how much better or different it could be. But often it's very difficult to even start thinking about ways to improve it. And of course, we always look to the authorities, you know, oh, the government should do this or that, or we need to vote in someone else. You know, you might not necessarily be able to change the system anyway. It's not that systems exist to keep things going, and they're sometimes necessary. Of course, it brings to mind this whole, the argument you often hear from globe Earth defenders that, if it wasn't for science and technology, you wouldn't have video cameras and internet and computers and stuff like that. Nobody's denying the application of science and smart people and scientific methods to bring about convenience. Yeah, that's all recognized and appreciated, but that's the difference. People categorize the globe Earth belief as something scientific. No, it's mathematical models. People have been able to do maths for centuries and create concepts and descriptions. So I really wish people could discern the difference between science and scientific exploration and mathematics, which is obviously used to describe science, and people may be very fluent in mathematics, just as someone else is fluent in a language or fluent with a pen and paper to draw or illustrate something. There are very few people that have a good grasp on all of these different skills. So, people who can create mathematical models, or artists, or musicians, or people who are very technically minded, we all have a role to play. We all have a contribution to make, but no one person or no one skill set has any dominance or precedence over determining the shape of the Earth, where the Earth is, and all that stuff. So you have to accept that there is an esoteric, let's say spiritual element to this, and science can be an exploration of all those aspects, including the things that are not so tangible. You can't just use one particular branch of science to determine or decide or govern the theories, the ideas, the concepts about who we are, where we are, what this Earth is, or make prediction. One of my pet hates is when people come along and talk about making predictions about sunrises, sunsets, and eclipses and things like that. The heliocentric model doesn't have any precedence and doesn't dictate the ability to make predictions. All the predictions that are made about the sun, eclipses and what have you are just done from observations that we've made on the Earth right here and recorded over time, and that becomes very predictable. So what we have in the sky here is part of a clock mechanism. Yeah, it's not and of course there is clearly some intelligent design behind it all. But I'm not talking about an all-benevolent, all-loving, all-seeing God that we must bow down to. I certainly respect that I have a life and the eyes and ears and sensibility to appreciate this place. The fact that I can feed my family. Here we are having a great day at the beach. Yeah. But it also takes work and determination on my part, my personal goal, to be here and go through all the bullshit that you got to put up with to give the kids, a happy life themselves. That's hard work. So hats off to any parent out there who is struggling and just trying their best to raise their kids, feed their family, The thing is, it's the same for any creature on this earth. You see the birds get up in the morning and they go and look for their food, and they work together. Often they work in pairs. I see pairs of birds in my garden. You know, they clearly have a relationship, and they don't necessarily have much choice about what they can eat or what they're biologically made to do. They get on with it, just like we do. We get on with our jobs, but the thing is, we do have a choice. We can choose whether we're vegetarian or not, and we can choose whether we can fight with each other or make peace and love with each other. These are all choices that we can be aware of. We can bring our subconscious into our consciousness, and we can make conscious decisions about how we're going to interact. Yeah? These are all things we can think about and make decisions about. To what ends? By what means? I don't know. Constantly seeking the answers, but if you're just going to, and this is the whole thing with the flat Earth thing, yeah, is that we can't be just saying, oh, it's like this, it's like that, if we don't know. We just have to reach this realization that we don't know and accept it, surrender to that there is a limit to our knowledge about what we're doing here. Enjoy the ride, appreciate the ride, or maybe take the rough with the smooth, and understand that it could well be some kind of experience that we have to have with a purpose, even if we don't know what that purpose is. We don't, yeah? You all know what I'm trying to say. And when people reach a level of understanding, then silence is okay. Isn't it weird? When you, in social situations, silence becomes the most uncomfortable thing. You turn off the TV, suddenly there's silence. Now what do we do? Well, just be silent. It doesn't matter. You don't have to talk. You don't have to say or do anything. Just be. But that's probably one of the most difficult things we can ever do, is to just be. We feel it's necessary to fill the void with chatter, opinion, ideology, belief. That's just social conditioning. That's just the discomfort that comes with feeling pressured to be someone, to be something, to adhere to certain kinds of cultural labels or if you can reach a point where you're comfortable with silence and you don't need distractions, that is quite an achievement.
Daddy?
Yes?
I'm concerned if I
Really? Well, just go and wash it out in the sea then. It's okay, just go and wash it out. Yeah, if that's a sign of getting somewhere. I like to watch the way, for example, a dog. You know, it's interesting to watch a dog or a cat even. You know, that just sits there, but you can see, especially with a dog. You know, you can see that they're constantly aware of what's going on. You know, their ears are picking up different sounds, and they're focusing on this or that. You know. And so they're constantly aware of their surroundings. I'm running out of space now. Oh well, it's been nice. I hope you enjoyed the sun. Thank you very much.